Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Competitive Advantage Talks presented by Wasserman at the 2018 Sloan Sports Analytics Conference. My name is Jill, and I'm a first-year MBA student at MIT Sloan. And it is my pleasure to present our presentation, The Currency of the NFL Winning, presented by EdjSports. Please join me in welcoming our speakers, Frank Frigo, co-founder of Edge Analytics, and Tony DeFeo, president of EdjSports. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill, and thank you all for coming out. We're really excited to be here. They've outdone themselves again, and this conference just keeps getting better each year. So thanks for having us, and thanks for coming out. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what we think is the currency of the NFL. We always say it's always about winning. My background is coming from the team side, and recognizing the EdjFootball product for me was something, a revelation, if you will, because it really showed me a way in which value was uncovered and recognized and then captured, which really wasn't something that we looked at from a team side to a very high degree prior to my introduction to EdjSports. So we hope that we uncover some value for you today, and working with Frank, like Jill said, the co-founder of Edge Analytics. He'd been in the energy space for many, many years, and is also a world champion backgammon player. And so to understand the space from a different perspective is always a good thing. So we're going to show you a little video, our movie trailer, if you will, that explains something pretty significant and difficult in about 2 minutes. So let's take a look at that.
In a game of inches, where the difference between victory and defeat often comes down to a handful of plays, making the right call is crucial. With the game's infinite variables, separating what matters from the noise has never been more difficult and has never mattered more. Imagine transforming the chaos of a universe of options into clear choices that increase your game-winning chance. Welcome to EdjFootball. Harnessing the limitless power of prescriptive analytics, EdjFootball brings unmatched clarity and confidence to critical game decisions and play calling. EdjFootball is the powerful product built on more than a decade of research. It draws on 20 years of NFL play-by-play data to run billions of customized simulations. Every variable, every play, every outcome is at your fingertips to build the best game plan and win more games. Our innovative, proven approach assesses game-winning chance as a lens to give teams the best opportunity to win. EdjFootball measures an endless number of variables and how they affect GWC to inform play-calling decisions. EdjFootball provides unprecedented and actionable insights with tools that fit seamlessly into your workflow to support analysis before, during, and after the game. Game day matchups offer a granular look at offensive and defensive strengths and weaknesses customized per opponent each week. Our play call simulator reveals the optimal play choice and alternatives for every game situation within seconds. Strategy guides are tailored for each opponent and are an ideal tool for pre-game planning and game time decisions. Post-game reports feature detailed breakdowns of every decision, homing in on the pivotal moments of each game. The season report gives detailed evaluation of wins to understand the assets and liabilities that shaped performance. Player evaluation measures and assesses individual player performance. With roster valuation, you can build unique rosters to maximize expected wins. And custom analytics enable examination of every aspect of the game. Thousands of hours are spent each week preparing and developing a winning game plan. Teams that rely on chance and gut instinct need to rethink their approach. When you want to gain a competitive edge, our numbers don't lie. This is EdjFootball.
Okay, so before we talk what we're all here to talk about, which is football, just a quick bit on some of the amazing innovations that have been made in games of skill and where machines are now outperforming humans. With computing power and innovative modeling techniques, there's just been some amazing advances in the past couple of decades. So famously in 1997, Deep Blue, IBM's product, defeated Garry Kasparov. A lot of you might remember or might not be as familiar with this guy on the right, but that's Lee Sedol, one of the top Go players in the world. Nobody thought a machine was going to beat a top Go player for at least another decade. That was proven wrong in the past year. And this is really the foundation of our approach to football. We take this game construct to sort of think about problems and use data to look at particular objectives. So when we think about the decision-making approach, this is the foundation really of everything we do. So what's the available data? How does it transform into information? How is it changing in real time? What are the constraints of the decision-making process? So in a game like football, the rules that you have to operate within to use that information. And then finally, it might almost seem trivial, but really clearly defining the goal, the objective of the game. So everything we do, and that's what we're here to talk about today, this currency of the NFL, game-winning chance or GWC, everything we do points towards that objective. How does this information, within the constraints of these rules, point to the objective of maximizing GWC? So a good place to start is this is an example of a win probability chart from the Super Bowl. So a lot of you have probably seen these. We have, in the foundation of our product, EdjFootball, a fully customizable simulation engine that can play the game from the opening kickoff or from any unique configured point in the game to its conclusion. Running clock, timeout usage, typical behavioral traits of coaches, decades of research on play-by-play data to build our distribution curves. But a really unique component of what we do is how we customize those teams. So when we went into the Super Bowl this year, we had about 18 games, or exactly 18 games of in-season data that informed how we customized New England and Philadelphia. So if you'll notice here on the very left end, this might come as a surprise to some, but when we simulated this at the opening kickoff, we actually had Philadelphia as a slight favorite in this game. That's important because how we assess the traits of those teams is going to affect all of the subsequent decisions. Embedded in this information that you're looking at, though, is all of the decisions that were made along the way, how they executed, some of the randomness, and each of those increments is an individual play. So the best way to think about this is it's kind of a tug of war, or you could even use a poker analogy that each team had a number of GWC chips at the beginning of the game. In this case, Philadelphia maybe had a couple more. And at the end of the game, one team is going to have all of those chips and the other is going to have zero. So what happens? What's this push and pull along the way and what affects that? So we're going to examine a couple of interesting things that actually occurred in the Super Bowl. And the first one occurred early in the second quarter. You might all remember this decision for the botched snap that occurred. But what was more interesting was at the decision point. New England had a short yardage situation here where they chose to kick the field goal. So we were able to simulate this situation customized for New England specifically against Philadelphia and examine with simulations which was on average going to produce more wins. So we had this is this is an example of our play call simulator module, which accepts variables that define specifically this situation. The score difference, the timeouts, the ball position, yards to first, everything that defines this specific problem. And it resulted in New England on average would have won about 4% more often going for it in a short yardage run situation here than choosing a field goal. So that was a very interesting decision.
And I think it's this enhanced context or this understanding of painting the picture of value is really where we see that this product is really charging into changing behavioral and changing decision making with head coaches and decision makers throughout the league.
So a little bit later in the game, this one didn't get quite as much publicity, but a lot of you would remember it. With just under 6 minutes remaining in the game, New England on their own 45-yard line did something that bucked conventional wisdom somewhat. They had a short yardage situation, trailing by a point, and decided to not punt the ball, but instead go for it. They completed a short pass.
Philadelphia, yeah.
And Philadelphia, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a very interesting situation, and there was actually quite a bit more GWC riding in the balance on this one. We had this as about a 13% impact on the game-winning chance. So this was a really significant decision. Sometimes we think about these fourth down decisions as painting them with the broad brushstroke of, oh, you just need to be more aggressive on average, but they're all very specific to the situation. You change the clock, you change the score difference, you change the opponents, it can all affect these risk management decisions. So this was very, very significant point in the game.
And I think the confidence by which the Eagles displayed that they were going for it, there was really no question about it in any of their behavior. This was a go, and they knew it. And I think that piece is also something that we're seeing starting to shift within the NFL specifically. There's more confidence in calling third down plays as well. When you understand the ability and the value in going for it, or in certain areas, certain situation, in situational football, now all of a sudden the defense has to prepare for 2 downs instead of 1, and the entire playbook can be open on a 4th and 1 or a 4th and 3 and things like that. So that's that behavioral shift that I believe that we're starting to see, especially with the Super Bowl. So in this situation, really, we're saying we're at the -45. We're the Eagles. Is there a spot on the field that is a value proposition to go ahead and punt the ball? Does anybody have an idea of where they could have maybe pinned the Patriots, and that would have been a more profitable action?
Yeah, so take aside turnovers, but just...
Right, no turnovers, but yeah, if they would have punted the ball, at what point on the field could they have pinned them for that to be a profitable action?
To have justified the punt over the more aggressive action.
More aggressive action. Anybody? Yeah.
Break it down to like expected win percentage. It should be like there's no situation where punting is more profitable. It's not even close. I don't think it's even close.
Okay, good guess.
Somebody
said the 1.
You got a bottle of EdjFootball
So if they
water.
did get him on the 1, that the special teams unit would have done their job famously, been running off the field high-fiving each other, and have a job well done, correct? We tend to differ.
Yeah, so this is an example of resulting starting positions for the Patriots, and you can see that even pinning the ball down on the 1-yard line would have resulted in about an approximate loss of about 6% GWC. So that's really fascinating. I don't think anybody would imagine that a punt that you could do that successfully would actually still be costing you, but that's just how significant some of these in-game risk management decisions are.
Counterintuitive for sure, but the fact remains, we think that this was the only profitable action.
So how do we build upon this? So if you talk about the currency of the NFL and understanding GWC, it's really important. If you're going to make good decisions, you've got to be able to measure your objective, and that's what we're really all about. And we've spent over a decade working and refining that. But other ways to sort of use that information when you talk about currency is to be able to contextualize a lot of different facets of the game. So it's one thing to understand what a suboptimal decision might have cost you, but we often talk in generalities about giveaways and takeaways. We often talk in generalities about penalties or strength of schedule. What we're able to do in our season end report is break down a team's, this is effectively a balance sheet or an income statement, looking at the assets and liabilities and how they offset one another. So this is an example from New England this season in a way that we break down different components of their decisions, different components of their execution, and things that were even more random that they might not have had a lot of control over, just to provide some perspective on what was going on this season, how did it balance out that resulted in them winning 13 regular season games, based on who we analyzed on all their play decisions during the course of the season, every play from scrimmage. At the end of the season, we would have predicted them to win about 11 games based on who we knew they were at the end of the season, but you can see that they went 13-3 here, and there's a lot of different things playing into that.
And we produce this week over week for teams as well, the different areas in which value may have been lost or gained, and it's this context that really helps them recognize, what to do next and what to do better next year. And again, it's all about context for us for enhanced decision making, and we think this is yet another example of that. And winning the off season. So we've shown you some of the things that we provide in season for decision making, specifically for head coaches, play callers. Winning the off season is also just as important. As we saw these two teams that participated in the Super Bowl this year, I think a lot of us would probably agree they would have won the offseason last year with the way they built their rosters. So how do we create tools for the decision makers in talent evaluation? So we have a player evaluation model that we're building in conjunction with some other teams, and it's going to be available this fall for all teams. This is really taking the information. They spend a lot of money collecting a lot of information with scouts. We have player performance data. We have physiology data. We have cognition measures. We have all these things, in silos most of the time. And so for teams to be able to look at this in more of a 4D type of vein and be able to cross-reference a lot of this information, but also be able to impute what they deem valuable. For a running back, what does a running back look like, for my team? What do I need out of a running back this year in this draft? I can kind of start to build that recipe and then weight that recipe in the categories amongst themselves. So we're very excited about this, and we really think that this, in conjunction with the roster valuation chart, start to dovetail nicely into some very extreme tools for the talent evaluation and player personnel.
So we talked about earlier that we go through a pretty rigorous process of customizing the teams that allows us to examine play calling decisions and conduct these simulations. That results in about 7 billion simulations and pieces of analysis during the course of the season, and how we sort of construct the strengths and weaknesses of those teams. We do that now with something called an Edge Power Index, and it's broken down through special teams, offense and defensive pass, offense and defensive rush, that defines who all of these NFL teams are. We do this for college as well. But what we're doing now is we're taking this to a more granular level, and in development is the roster valuation tool, which is to try to contextualize how changes in the roster can affect seasonal win expectation, and allow the user to put in hypothetical rosters and to look at comparisons and the deltas between the effectiveness. And ultimately, how does that factor into the spend? You have a finite number of dollars that you're spending. How are you getting return in terms of wins? Because that's really, again, the currency that matters.
Yeah, I think I get harassed a little bit around the office for always saying, is the juice worth the squeeze? But this is where we're trying to figure out if the juice is worth the squeeze. So this is something that we're very excited about, and really kind of the frontier piece that we're working on currently. So we appreciate your time and attention. We'd be happy. I think we have a little bit of time to take any questions, if anybody has anything. Sure.
So I have a question kind of related to the first. Sorry, thank you. Yeah, so I have a question related to the first scenario you showed, where going for the field goal resulted in a 4% less game-winning chance. Was it the first quarter, like early second quarter?
Early second quarter.
Yeah. So so one factor that I kind of curious how you guys take into account is variance. So say like you're a favorite in the game, right? You're the favorite team. You want to take maybe you want to take a situation that results in a lower game-winning chance but has less variance, compared to when you're the underdog and you know that you need a couple scenarios like this to go your way to win the game. So sometimes if you believe you're the favorite, it might be better to take a play that results in a less net game-winning chance but has a lower variance than
those
things
right? Considered, I think also giving decision makers the context to make more confident decisions also starts to skew how you're looking at that question as well,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So it's also, do I think I'm the favorite? But more importantly, do I think that, what are my best odds here? Can I eliminate, if I have, 4 options, can I eliminate 2 of them? I'm automatically gonna, be more successful at those outcomes if I can, start to distill my options and select a course of action with confidence.
So we allow the user to test sensitivities on particular decisions. So in that particular situation, we are simulating literally hundreds of thousands of times the comparative effectiveness of those 2 plays. we're fully considering some of the strengths and weaknesses that are going on there. And what ends up happening at the end of it is that we're getting 4% more wins on average. But we do allow the user to sort of test the sensitivities around that. They could put in extreme scenarios and say, what if this team is the best offensive rushing team in the NFL? What if their opponent is the weakest rushing defense, or vice versa, to sort of construct counter arguments. And that really provides a lot of insights around these decisions, because what you find sometimes is that even when you encapsulate the argument and go even beyond it, you might change the magnitude of what we see as the suboptimal decision, but it doesn't necessarily flip it. So that's a lot of what we offer to the users, to be able to test those kinds of things.
So someone just giving like the staff the best, like a full view of like what the best decision is and what they think is the best decision, given the context of what.
Yeah, what's more plausible? I mean, at the end of the day, it's nice to know that maybe it's 4% better than the other decision. What you're really trying to do is you're at a fork in the road. You're trying to choose the best path on average.
And they know their teams. We believe our customizations are unparalleled, but at the same time, a pushback might be that we know our team better than you do. And that's fine, and you get to turn the knobs and reflect that, reflect your beliefs in that way. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Over here. She's going to bring that microphone over to help you out there.
For the talent evaluation model, how do you quantify for attributes players have that aren't physical?
So what the player evaluation asset is really designed to do is to take the information that teams are already collecting and be able to cross-reference those things and be able to show those in an evaluation that is, deep as it is broad. So really, we're just taking the objective information, but we're still allowing the user to really, put their fingerprints on it. So we're not making any subjective subjective value judgments to say, this is more important or this is more important. Again, to the last point, I know my team better than you do, and we believe that. And so we want to just arm them with, a weapon then or an asset that can really reflect and give them an enhanced way to show what they value and to uncover areas in which they might, value but not necessarily see it in when they have multiple variables, multiple categories, and the weights in which they want to make that evaluation. We have no more time for any more questions. The music hasn't started playing yet, but I think it might. So we appreciate your attention. We do have a booth on the other side of the building, and we'd love to chat with any of you who'd like to come by and say hello. Thank you all.